The first sign was the way she blinked. Too slow, too deliberate, each lid dragging over her eyes like the mouth of a wound trying to close. Emma noticed it at breakfast, the way her mother sat still, too still, her spoon poised above her cereal but unmoving, her gaze locked onto the wooden grain of the table as if studying something buried inside it. Her fingers twitched, not a natural movement, not the subtle tremor of tired hands, but something jagged, unnatural, like a marionette's strings had been jerked by an unsteady hand. The day carried on, but something was wrong. The air in the house felt damp, heavy, though no storm loomed outside. Her mother's movements were sluggish, rehearsed. Each time she reached for something, a glass, a doorknob, a strand of hair that had fallen into her face, it was as though she had forgotten how to do it, pausing mid-action before continuing. That night, Emma lay in bed and listened. The house was too quiet. No murmuring television, no click of the kettle, no shifting of feet across the hallway, just silence. And then something else, a slow, wet sound. She turned onto her side, staring at the glow of her nightlight against the wall, listening. Sluck. A low, stretching noise. The sound of something pulling free from something else. She sat up. The noise came again from the hallway. A thick, unpleasant shift, like raw meat peeling off linoleum. Emma's breath slowed. She climbed out of bed and pressed her ear to the door. Silence again. But then, a whisper of movement, something dragging. The door opened too easily, as if the air had been sucked from the hallway beyond. The light in the corridor flickered, and her mother stood at the end of the hall, facing away. Her nightgown was wrong. Too tight around her shoulders, seams straining as if her body had changed beneath it. Her spine curved at an unnatural angle, vertebrae pushing against the fabric. Then she twitched. Her whole body jerked in a way that no human body should. Something rolled beneath her skin, traveling up her back, toward her neck. Her head tilted, too far to one side like her neck had unspooled inside. Emma took a step back. Her mother moved, not walking, shifting. Her feet barely left the ground, her arms dangling at her sides, her fingers flexing like they were relearning how to work. The skin around her mouth was stretched, the corners pulled too far as though she had been smiling for hours. Emma slammed her door and locked it. She did not sleep that night. The next morning, her mother acted normal. Almost. The way she moved, the way she breathed, it was all wrong. The rise and fall of her chest came in uneven pulses like something was pushing from the inside, struggling to match the rhythm of a human heart. Her fingers fumbled with buttons with the handle of her coffee mug. The milk spilled, pooling across the counter, and when she laughed, the sound was wet, too thick, like something gurgled at the base of her throat. Emma did not eat breakfast that morning. Days passed. The smell in the house changed. A low, damp rot. Not strong, not overwhelming, but present, clinging to the walls, to the sheets, to the fabric of her mother's clothes. At night, Emma heard noises from her mother's room. The stretching, the shifting, a low, sucking pop, as if something were being turned inside out. And then, something worse. A second voice. Not speaking, not forming words, just a murmur. A whisper of something with a mouth that did not understand human speech. Emma covered her ears. One night she gathered the courage to peek. The door to her mother's bedroom was open. The bed was empty, and the walls were wrong. Something had pushed against them from the inside, warping the wallpaper outward in swollen bulges, as though something massive had been pressed against them and then pulled back. A sheen of wetness glistened across the ceiling, and then she heard breathing, not from the bed, from the closet. The door hung open by an inch. Emma's body went cold. A shadow moved within. Her mother, or what remained of her, crouched there, her limbs too long, her neck too thin, her head twitching in sharp, unnatural jerks. She was chewing. Her lips smacked wetly. Something pale, something organic, gleamed between her teeth. The closet reeked. Emma turned and ran. Her mother came after her, not walking, lurching. Her joints popped as they bent too far, her breath wheezing, her mouth stretching too wide. Emma slammed the door to her room, and this time her mother did not stop. She scratched, not with nails, with bone. Something splintered against the wood, dragging down the door with a slow, deliberate motion. Emma did not sleep. By morning, the scratches were gone. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming. Her hands dripped. With what? Emma did not know. She did not ask. She did not stay. She took nothing but her backpack, her shoes. She did not turn back, not when her mother called her name in that wrong voice. Not when the house exhaled, as though something inside it had grown too large to stay contained. Not when she reached the edge of the yard and saw her mother standing in the window, her face pressed against the glass, her mouth unhinged wider than should have been possible, teeth gleaming, stretching into something that was no longer a smile. Emma did not stop running, and she never saw her mother again. But sometimes in the silence of an empty room, she still hears it, the sound of something shifting, remembering, learning how to be human, and failing. But sometimes in the silence of an empty room, she still hears it, the sound of something shifting, remembering, learning how to be human, and failing. But sometimes in the silence of an empty room, she still hears it, the sound of something shifting, remembering, learning how to be human, and failing.